let's dive in to what you saw last night out of LSU Kentucky. And I'm going to start with something that sounds self-evident, but I don't know that it was, right? And I think you'd almost hear Wade touching on this at the end of the press conference as well, and that is that this LSU defense is truly something scary. Now, we all know that. Obviously, pre-conference play, the best defense in the country statistically. And even against Auburn, though they gave up 7, they lose that game. Even against Auburn, you saw the value of the defense. Like, it was the only way that you managed to still make that game close after the beginning that you had. But still, I don't know how much national buy-in there was behind this LSU defense. Well, I think after last night, there can be no question. This is a Kentucky team that was averaging 82 points a game. You held them to 60 points, okay? So 75% of their season average. You hold them to 60 points, 36% shooting from the field, 15 turnovers to just 11 assists. At one point in this game, fellas, at the end, in the second half, when it mattered most, you went on a 20-2 run. And you're like, oh, man, okay, that's crazy. It was over like 5 minutes? What, 6? That was over a 10-minute stretch. You held Kentucky to 2 points. And think about this. Think about how much we made over the awful start against Auburn, right? LSU comes out, they're 0-16 from the field. They score 1 point. They have 1 point for the first 11 minutes of the game. They did not score a field goal until there were 9:14 left in the first half. Well, guess what? This is the exact same thing. Kentucky scored 2 points in a 10-minute period, only in this case, it was literally when the game mattered the most and when they had their biggest lead to start this whole thing off. From 12 minutes left to 2 minutes left in the game, Kentucky scored 2 points. So again, if you don't believe or if you didn't believe or you didn't respect the LSU defense, well, now you have to. Okay, there is no more excuse. This defense is as real as anything else in all of college basketball. But, I know I started with the defense because why not? We'll still talk a lot of defense. But the real key to last night, it's exactly what Coach Wade said in the postgame press conference last night. It was the battle on the boards. Literally everything about this Kentucky team is fueled by their rebounding. Like we mentioned during headlines, remember, Kentucky came into the game leading the nation in rebounding margin. Okay, y'all, they were averaging 17. They were grabbing 17 more boards than their opponent. Just think about that from a possession standpoint and how impactful they could be. And so I coming into this game, I thought, okay, if LSU could keep the rebounds within 5, right? If they can just lose by 5, like that would be a big win and really set LSU up to maybe get the victory. They did me one better. The final rebounding stat line, 39-39. Again, on most nights, 39-39. Okay, that's fine. You tied, that's good, whatever. But in the context of who Kentucky is and how they have played basketball this year and the context that they're used to operating out of, right? They're used to playing games this year where they have 17 more possessions than their opponent does. LSU took that out. So in my opinion, LSU tying it 39, that's more like LSU winning that rebounding battle by like 10, right? Because it just completely changes the complexion of everything. It changed the complexion of who Kentucky is. It changed the complexion of who LSU is. And when you look at how they were able to do it, they were fully committed. Go back and watch that game last night. The physicality, the boxing out by LSU down low was a thing of beauty. I mean, clinic tape. When you're talking about putting a body on a body and fighting and being aggressive, not trying to hold guys back from the basket, but actively leaning into them, actively pushing them out of the paint. I mean, did you see, and Mario, you watch a lot more basketball on both levels than I do, but did you see how they were handling free throws last night at times where the two guys down low, they would form a wall like you want to, but one guy wouldn't even face the basket. Like one guy was just turned towards a defender and was just making sure they kept eyes on them, stopped any offensive rebounds out of free throws, and again, it worked perfectly. They were tipping balls, fighting for balls, crashing the boards. Like when Coach Wade talks about the effort of this team, and really that's what you can see, the effort of this team, it makes up for so much with this team, like a bit of the offensive sloppiness and whatever. They just overcome it with determination, gritty, hard play. But when Coach Wade talks about effort, I think it showed up most in the rebound department last night. And let's also be clear about this. It took everybody. Again, Kentucky's a team that a lot of times on the boards is fueled by one main guy and everybody else adds here or there. Of course, talking about Shibwe, but last night, not a single player on LSU had over 10 boards. Mwani Wilson had 6, Days had 7, Reed had 4, Murray 3, Pinson 4, Fudge 2, Eason 6, Justice Williams grabs 1, and then Eric Gaines gets 2 for himself. That's team basketball. That is effort, intensity, and the ability to keep that effort and intensity. I mean, right? I'd written in my notes, I'm like, man, LSU's really putting the clamps on Kentucky early on. Can they keep this pace for 40 minutes? And when old boy, what's his name, the shooter from Kentucky, when he started hitting threes, it got a little sketchy that second half. I was like, okay, you know what? Look, there's now more space. It's because they're tired. I think they're tiring out. Nothing could have been further than the truth. They just need a little tightening. Just no, get up in his face. Don't give him even a step. And they did, and they completely shut him down after that. And so the ability to keep up that effort and intensity for all 40 minutes, that is what you do in the offseason, right? Coach Moffitt used to always say this: the price for success is paid in advance, okay? This LSU basketball team worked their ass off during boot camp, during practices, during summer camp. They still run a lot, right? But they have worked their ass off so that they can keep up that effort and intensity for an entire game. They have put in the hours, and it allows them to wear you down and choke you out. I mean, it felt like a constrictor just grabbing Kentucky and just overpowering it as a life squeeze. I could see Kentucky's eyes bulging. They're about to just explode Game of Thrones style. And yes, look, Kentucky did not have Xavier Wheeler. I get it. A great pick by Efton Reed, by the way, completely legal. Again, physical play. We love to see it. But you know what? That's sports, right? LSU would have loved to have Brandon Murray, their leading minute getter against Auburn. They'd love to have Sharif O'Neal have been healthy for the last couple of years. So that's the way of the road, Bubs, to quote Ricky's dad. Here's a stat. This is a complete aside, as we can talk about the offense a bit. Here's a stat that'll make you go, huh. Do you know, I don't know if y'all have read this in the document or not. I hope you have it. What would you guess that LSU shot from 3 last night?
Like 30%.
Yeah. Danny, what you about the same?
Yeah, 30%.
Bro, they shot 39, which is pretty wild. Like I'm not saying that's great, but I mean 40%, that's the bar, that's the metric. And it didn't feel like it, but they end up 9 of 23, 39.1% from 3. Now that said, the offense remains a work in progress, right? It feels sloppy. It feels like they struggle to achieve like a flow state a lot of times. It felt like last night there were a lot of committing to these kind of full send attack lines and then trying to bail from them last second. And that led to a lot of turnovers. Now, I should say this. Second half, they cleaned it up. I think 6 second half turnovers. So that's another key in all of this, how you affect that second half, how you go on that run. It's in part because they cleaned it up. But yeah, they struggle to shoot from outside. They kind of do struggle to finish around the rim. But if you play like they do in every other facet of the game, that's okay. You don't have to do great to be good. Like, you don't have to do great offensively. You just have to do enough. They're like a better version of the Saints right now in many ways. And look, if you ever do find some more consistent offense, well, then this team could just be completely terrifying. Like if Darius Day starts to like Days, if he starts to go off. I will say this offensively, I love watching Tari Eason attack the rim. He feels like LSU's biggest offensive threat in terms of like slicing through zones, being able to create for himself. He hits it hard, fast. He's big, but he's smooth enough. If somebody tries to draw the charge, he can slip through the cracks. He's like water a little bit like that. He just kind of slips through the cracks, and he feels threatening when he is attacking the rim. I don't think you could say that about everybody. Other players that stood out to me last night, Eric Gaines is my favorite player to watch defensively. I mean, he has, I was telling the boys before the show, he has the quickness of like a literal snake. I'm just sitting there watching him, and he's just sitting there watching the guy with the ball, tongue flicking the air, and then out of nowhere, boom, he strikes. Just, And next thing you know, like his hands are so fast, it looks like a blur. It's like some Bruce Lee level stuff. And next thing you know, he's created a big steal. LSU's running. And that's when LSU thrives, is when things get chaotic and you're running up and down the court and they get a bit sloppy and dirty and nasty. It's that clean-cut half-court offense where it's just not what you prefer. And I also love seeing Eric Gaines go 2-2 from three. I want to say he had missed like 20-something threes in a row before he hit that one in the Auburn game. So starting to get that stroke back a bit. Xavier Pinson's a bit more interesting, right? At times I was very frustrated with Pinson. I felt like he had like 8 turnovers. I think the final stat line read 4 or 5, which is still probably too many, but he does a lot of that. But he does a lot of everything else as well, right? Like, what is stat line? He had the 4 turnovers, but he had 4 boards, 4 assists, 3 steals, and 11 points. And he, too, is just a huge effort, intensity sort of guy. So I love seeing Darius Days and Tari Eason come up huge late. The feed by Eason to find Pinson with the pass under the basket at the end was a thing of beauty. And, boys, now we arrive at the PMAC, which on TV sounded really loud. It sounded great. What was the environment like? Danny, you were on the court. Mara, you were in the stands. Mara, you can start. What did you think about the PMAC last night?
Environment was great. It was pretty much like not full to the brim, but like 90% full. And the people that were there brought it. Like Kentucky went on that run to start the second half. It got a little quiet. But when LSU went on that 20-2 run, that's as loud as I've heard that building in a while.
Danny, what about you, dude?
Yeah, it was definitely electric on that last run. After every big play, the crowd erupted. We were talking about this like before the show started. Like we would like to see like more of like a loud environment,
like sustained
during
cheering.
The play. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, like a Duke or Kansas. But
yeah,
other
right.
than that, it was great.
Yeah, and look, and we're still learning our way around being a basketball school, so that will come with time. I mean, look, I think the student section's got a lot of it down. I think maybe the rest of the crowd will eventually come around. And what Danny's saying there, he's talking about sustained volume, right? So not just reacting to a huge play. No, we don't need to go like full Duke Cameron crazy, like jumping up and down the entire possession, whatever. But not just reacting to a huge play, but keeping that noise up during every defensive possession and making it consistently hard, like Auburn did. I mean, Auburn was loud throughout the entire game, and I think LSU and the PMAC is going to get there. I think Saturday versus Tennessee, I'm very excited to see what kind of crowd shows up. I mean, let's be clear. You're talking about the 2 winningest teams in the SEC over the last 3 years. That place should be absolutely electric. And Mario said 90% full. You hope that it's 100% full. But yeah, shout out the Balcony Bengals, the new student group kind of leading the way there. They got a shout out from Wade after the game last night. So the times are changing, and we'll talk about the bowl game next. You'll see why LSU's kind of become a basketball school. But what a time to be one. And as Wade said, look, I'm still very excited by all this, and it's awesome. But as Wade said, we are getting to the point where now this should almost be the expectation. When you are at home, even against the Tennessee on Saturday, you should expect to win. And I expect that they will, and I expect that it's going to be crazy and going to be loud, and I expect that the defense is going to be grinding and intense. I mean, what a win for the Tigers last night. The difference between 0-2 with 2 ranked losses and 1-1 with a ranked win and a ranked loss feels like a massive gulf. I mean, just in terms of fan psychology and security, you would have had full-blown panic. We suck. The preseason was just that. It was nothing. Now it's like, okay, now we're in the thick of it. Yeah, you get the one. Now it's time for the next one. Turn right back around, and in 3 days, you got Tennessee because it's Wednesday. All right, when we get back, let's talk about the Texas Bowl and just kind of get into what it means or maybe what it doesn't mean. Keep it locked here on OTV.